Fox News hosts are sounding the alarm as the polls tighten between President Biden and Donald Trump, warning Republicans that their extreme anti-choice agenda may cost them the election. And liberal Fox News commentator Jessica Tarlov, as well as two other Democratic congresspeople, are also telling Republicans, too late. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bell before you go. I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, friends, we've got a couple of clips to play in this video, but basically the theme is the cracks are starting to show in the smug confidence of Fox propagandists at the Fox Propaganda Network, including Sean Hannity and Dana Perino on the matter of abortion. And they have reason to be terrified ever since the Dobbs decision in July 2022, which rescinded a 50-year tradition, 50 years of jurisprudence, which afforded women in this country the right to have an abortion. Republicans have paid the price electorally in 2022, in 2023, and perhaps, potentially, God willing, 2024. But we don't know yet. Still, at least the people at the Fox Propaganda Network are starting to sound the alarm. We're going to play a couple of clips, one from Sean Hannity, another from Dana Perino, and then we'll get into the liberal/Democratic response.
And Robert, it's good. We know what the playbook is. They will demagogue on abortion. Republicans, they better have a good answer. And they also need to understand where the country is. If people were to ask me my personal views, okay, I'm pretty pro-life. If you're asking me politically where a politician needs to be, I would say the Dobbs decision of 15 weeks, that's where the country is. And if Republican politicians don't understand that, then, and they run on that, they're going to get their asses kicked and they're going to lose.
And hopefully that's exactly what's going to happen. But again, let me first play this other clip. This from Dana Perino, who is a former spokesperson for President Bush, former White House press secretary. This is what she has to say.
This weekend, what do we find out? More and more states are trying to figure out a way to get abortion on the ballot in certain places, including Florida. So I could go on and on. I would just think that the Republicans have to realize this is an issue, that no matter what President Trump says, if he comes out and gives a statement next week, as apparently he's going to, whatever he's going to say about it, whatever he says, the Democrats are going to say, he's lying to you, and he's going to push for a national abortion ban, and they will have plenty of tape to run from the previous administration when the president was in office to try to back that up.
Yes, they will. And yes, Donald Trump, a well-known pathological liar, lying for political expedience. It's a pretty persuasive story, right? It's a pretty persuasive interpretation. So this is what liberal Fox News commentator Jessica Tarlov had to say in response to Dana Perino in that very episode of The Five.
And that's good. Fully agree with Jesse on the he has no idea, and also what Dana and the judge were saying about this. I would say, though, that it's not as if Democrats need to make up the evidence for this one. Donald Trump said, I killed Roe v. Wade. That is his legacy. And for the religious right, for instance, who it is a pure and simple morality issue, that makes him a hero. For Nikki Haley's supporters, that makes him difficult to stomach in a lot of ways, because we are seeing these 6-week abortion bans like what's going to show up in Florida. And most people who have spoken to a woman know that you don't even get a heartbeat scan before 6 weeks. There's also a tremendous misconception about who is getting abortions. And Jesse demonstrates that quite beautifully, the misconception, because he said we're not talking to young single women. But that's not who's getting the majority of abortions. Over 60% of women in America who are seeking one have already given birth to a child.
Right. Like the iconic example, unfortunately, of Kate Cox out of Texas, who was already a mother 2 or 3 times over, wanted to get pregnant, wanted to have a child, and the fetus was given a terminal diagnosis, which also could have potentially killed Kate Cox, the mother, or at least rendered her infertile. And the Texas Supreme Court and the Texas Attorney General basically conspired. I shouldn't say conspired. They both came to the same conclusion. The Texas Supreme Court overturned a ruling which would have allowed her to get a medically necessary abortion. The Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton, also said before that decision, by the way, that despite a lower court ruling saying she could get one, that if she followed through with it, he would prosecute her and potentially those else around her, the hospital, the doctor, her husband. Super gross stuff. and also, quite frankly, fodder for the Democrats ahead of this election that we should absolutely milk. But to Tarlov's point and to Perino's point, Donald Trump has said repeatedly that he's responsible for the current condition with respect to restrictions on abortion. He has taken credit for it. He's bragged about it. And the Biden campaign put this 40-second compilation together of all the times Donald Trump has done just that.
I got rid of Roe v. Wade. Supreme Court justices and the Supreme Court ruled to end the moral and constitutional atrocity known as Roe v. Wade. Very important. We did the Roe v. Wade thing, which they've been trying to get it done. If it weren't for me with Roe v. Wade, you wouldn't even be talking about this. Getting rid of Roe v. Wade was an incredible thing. I'm the one that got rid of Roe v. Wade. And what I did by killing Roe v. Wade, which everyone said was impossible. For 54 years, they were trying to get Roe v. Wade terminated, and I did it.
Right. So again, he deserves the blame. He has said it repeatedly. In his mind, it's credit, but we can easily weaponize it as blame. So even if Donald Trump comes out and says, listen, I actually support what was effectively codified in Roe, a 15-week, abortion ban or a staggered, series of qualifications. So a first trimester abortion tends to be elective. You can get them no problem. There tends to be impositions, or at least the allowances of state impositions in the second trimester. And then I think in the third trimester under the Roe v. Wade standard, it had to be medically necessary, or states could at least impose abortion bans or abortion restrictions to medical necessity, right? So if Donald Trump comes out and ballparks his position because he knows it's a losing issue for him, all we have to do is hit him with this stuff. Hey, he's lying to you because he has said that he celebrates that he gets the credit for the total revocation of abortion protections in this country, which gave rise to the 6-week abortion ban that we're talking about. In addition to Jessica Tarlov, Democratic freshman Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett also had this to say about how Democrats plan to use the wedge issue of abortion effectively against Republicans. Again, the dog that caught the car, and she is right to point this out.
I think the silence speaks volumes. We know where Trump stands. We know what this Supreme Court has done to decimate our freedoms, just like Congressman Goldman just laid out. It's not really about whether or not you agree with abortion, you understand abortion access. It's about freedom as a whole. And we know that the 3 Trump justices have absolutely put us into the upside down. This is why we are struggling. This is why the people are having to push back. I wish the state of Texas did have this option, because I could almost guarantee you that we would not have people facing up to life in prison if the people had an opportunity to choose. And the fact that it is a 60% threshold, they thought that that was going to be what they could do in Ohio to win. But we saw overwhelming number of people come out. And so honestly, this was probably the wrong fight to wage at the wrong time when they are trying to take the White House back. We know that Arizona is pushing to do the exact same thing. And so I am looking for good things out of Arizona. I'm looking for good things out of Florida. And anything that we can do, we're going to do. And I think it's really important that Dan is one of the people that brought this bill, because Dan is in New York. And we know that there are those that believe that if you're in New York or California, that you're safe. But they are trying to push a nationwide abortion ban, and we are going to push back.
Again, great stuff. Folks, again, whether you like it or not only have Republicans publicly expressed confidence in support of a national abortion ban, others have flirted with it. But the fact of the matter is, sorry, Donald Trump and the Republican Party do not deserve the benefit of the doubt on this issue. So I'm not inclined to give it to them. And quite frankly, neither should you. They have proven time and time again that if you give them an inch, they take 40 miles, not even a mile. This is Congressman Colin Allred, who's running for the U.S. Senate seat in Texas against Ted Cruz. This is what he had to say on the matter of the Republicans' war against choice in this country. And he makes a very compelling case, much like Congresswoman Crockett.
What's happening in Texas is it's a tragedy. We've had 26,000 women who've had to get birth to their rapist child since these laws went into place. We've had stories like Kate Cox, who was a mother of 2, who had a much 1 and 3rd pregnancy. She had to go to the emergency room 4 times. Her doctor said she needed a medically necessary abortion, and she asked her state, can I have it close to home, because I have a 1 and a 3-year-old at home. And they said no, and they didn't just say no. They said, if you do this, we're going to prosecute you, your doctor, your hospital. We have counties saying you can't drive through the county if you're going to use the roads to access an abortion. I mean, that doesn't sound like freedom to me. And I know one thing about...
And that's the thing. The Republican Party all the time says that they're the party of freedom, but they're not. They are the party of pro-forced birth. Nothing excites a Republican politician more than the prospect of forcing someone to give birth against their will and then doing absolutely nothing to take care of them and the child afterwards. It's some sort of weird fetish that I haven't been able to put my finger on, but that's what animates the modern Republican Party with respect to their elected officials. Now, what were Congresswoman Crockett and Jessica Tarlov and Dana Perino talking about when they said Florida? They keep mentioning Florida. Well, a recent decision by the Florida Supreme Court effectively has upheld a 6-week abortion ban, but also allows, maybe it didn't allow this, but there is going to be a public referendum on the ballot in Florida about the 6-week abortion ban. So the Florida Supreme Court upheld Florida Republican Governor DeSantis's very draconian abortion ban. But in November, Floridians will have a chance, just as was the case in Kansas and Kentucky and Ohio, to vote on it via referendum. And that's really bad news for Republicans. So let's see here. Such ballot initiatives have sprung up in America since the Dobbs decision. In all 6 referendums held so far, voters have chosen to protect abortion. Abortion rights advocates in a dozen states are now trying to place the issue on the ballot in November. Democrats across the country hope these referendums will mobilize voters who may not otherwise have felt inspired to get out and vote for President Biden. In Florida, this looks like a decent bet. By the way, this article is from The Economist. Most Floridians, including 60% of Republicans, oppose a 6-week abortion ban. I'll say it again. Most Floridians, including 60% of Republicans, oppose a 6-week abortion ban and will now have an opportunity to stop it. And then they say a second referendum will also be allowed about the recreational use of marijuana. So again, folks, this is potentially devastating. Florida, by the way, used to be a relatively purple state, but under Governor DeSantis, it's been gerrymandered to hell and back to maximize eligible Republican turnout and Republican control. So this may very well put Florida back in play, and not a moment too soon, because we definitely need that to happen ahead of the election. Fox News hosts are sounding the alarm. Will Republicans heed the alarm? And even if they do, isn't it too little too late? I sure think so. But let me know what you think in the comments.